The Middle East is a tinderbox, a region perpetually on the brink of eruption. For decades, it has been a focal point of global tension, a place where ancient rivalries and modern geopolitics collide in a volatile mix. The flames of conflict, always simmering just below the surface, have erupted again. This time, the violence has escalated to a level that has drawn the world's attention and concern. The situation is dire, and the stakes are incredibly high. The latest conflagration between Israel and Hamas has left a trail of death and destruction in its wake. Buildings reduced to rubble, lives shattered, and communities torn apart. The human cost is staggering, and the images coming out of Gaza are heart-wrenching. The world watches with bated breath as the Biden administration launches a desperate diplomatic push to quell the violence. This is a critical moment for international diplomacy, a test of America's resolve and influence on the global stage. Time is of the essence. Every moment that passes without a resolution brings more suffering and destruction. The urgency of the situation cannot be overstated. The stakes could not be higher. The potential for a broader regional conflict looms large, and the pressure on all parties involved is immense. The world is holding its breath, hoping for a breakthrough. The U.S., with its unique position and influence, is making a high-stakes gamble. It is leveraging its diplomatic clout, its alliances, and its resources in an attempt to bring about a ceasefire and pave the way for lasting peace. It is attempting to broker a ceasefire, a temporary truce that could pave the way for more substantive negotiations. This is a delicate and complex process, fraught with challenges and obstacles, but the path to peace is fraught with peril. The history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a testament to the difficulties of achieving lasting peace. Every step forward is met with setbacks and resistance. The two sides remain poles apart. Mistrust runs deep, and the wounds of past conflicts are still fresh. The divide between Israelis and Palestinians is not just political, but deeply personal and emotional. The cycle of violence, once unleashed, is difficult to contain. Each act of aggression begets retaliation, creating a vicious cycle that is hard to break. The challenge is to find a way to stop the violence and create a foundation for peace. This is not America's first rodeo. The U.S. has a long history of involvement in the Middle East, and it has played the role of mediator in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for decades. Its experience and influence are significant, but so are the challenges it faces. The U.S. has long played the role of mediator in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It has invested considerable diplomatic capital in the search for a lasting peace, and its efforts have been both praised and criticized. It has invested considerable diplomatic capital in the search for a lasting peace. The peace process has seen numerous initiatives, negotiations, and agreements, each with its own set of challenges and outcomes. But successes have been few and far between. The peace process has been marked by setbacks and disappointments, and the road to peace has been anything but smooth. The Oslo Accords, once hailed as a breakthrough, ultimately failed to deliver on their promise. The hopes and aspirations that accompanied the Accords have been dashed by subsequent events and actions. The two-state solution, the holy grail of peace negotiators, seems as elusive as ever. Despite numerous efforts and discussions, a viable and lasting solution remains out of reach. Yet, the Biden administration feels compelled to act. The images of carnage coming out of Gaza are impossible to ignore, and the humanitarian crisis is mounting by the day. The images of carnage coming out of Gaza are impossible to ignore. The destruction is widespread, and the impact on the civilian population is devastating. The humanitarian crisis is mounting by the day. The need for aid and assistance is urgent, and the international community is mobilizing to provide support. And the risk of a wider regional conflagration is all too real. The conflict has the potential to spill over into neighboring countries, creating a broader and more dangerous situation. The U.S., with its allies in tow, is determined to make a difference. It is working with international partners to coordinate efforts and present a united front in the quest for peace. But can it succeed where others have failed? The challenges are immense, and the stakes are incredibly high. The world is watching, and the outcome of this latest bid for peace will have far-reaching implications. To understand the current situation, it's important to look at the historical context. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has deep roots, and past peace efforts have provided valuable lessons. Each attempt at peace has built on the efforts of those that came before. and each failure has highlighted the complexities and challenges involved. The regional dynamics of the Middle East add another layer of complexity to the situation. The geopolitics of the region are intricate, with various countries and factions having their own interests and agendas. The U.S. must navigate these dynamics carefully to achieve its goals. Beyond the political and diplomatic aspects, there are the human stories. The conflict has a profound impact on individuals and families, and their stories are a powerful reminder of the human cost of war. These personal narratives add a poignant dimension to the broader conflict. The international response to the conflict has been significant. World leaders have issued statements, and there have been calls for restraint and dialogue. The global community is engaged, and there is a collective desire to see an end to the violence. In addition to diplomatic efforts, there are grassroots initiatives and local peace advocates working tirelessly to build bridges and promote understanding. These efforts, though often overshadowed by the larger conflict, are crucial to creating a foundation for lasting peace. The future prospects for peace are uncertain, but there is always hope. The potential outcomes of the current diplomatic efforts are varied, and much will depend on the willingness of the parties involved to compromise and find common ground. In conclusion, America's latest bid for Middle East peace is a high-stakes endeavor with far-reaching implications. The challenges are immense, but the potential rewards are equally significant. The world watches with hope and apprehension as the quest for peace continues. The Biden administration has deployed its most seasoned diplomats to the region. They are engaged in a frantic bout of shuttle diplomacy, racing against the clock to prevent further bloodshed. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is the point man, coordinating efforts with regional and international partners. He is shuttling between Jerusalem, Ramallah, Cairo, and other capitals, trying to bridge the chasm of distrust and find common ground. The pressure is immense. Lives are at stake. The clock is ticking. The diplomats are working around the clock, their phones glued to their ears. They are meeting with Israeli and Palestinian leaders, trying to de-escalate the situation and create the conditions for a ceasefire. They are also engaging with regional players like Egypt and Jordan, who have a vested interest in restoring calm. The work is grueling, the hours long, and the outcome uncertain. But the diplomats press on, driven by a sense of urgency and a belief that diplomacy, however difficult, is the only way out of this crisis. They know that failure is not an option. The consequences of inaction are too dire to contemplate. Antony Blinken, President Biden's trusted lieutenant, has emerged as the central figure in this diplomatic push. A seasoned diplomat with decades of experience in the Middle East, Blinken brings a deep understanding of the complexities of the conflict to the table. He is known for his calm demeanor, his ability to listen, and his knack for finding common ground. Blinken is no stranger to the region or the players involved. He has a long history of working on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, dating back to his time in the Obama administration. He understands the sensitivities, the red lines, and the potential pitfalls. He is also adept at navigating the often treacherous waters of Middle Eastern politics. In his current role as Secretary of State, Blinken has made it clear that the Biden administration is committed to a two-state solution. He has also stressed the importance of improving the lives of ordinary Palestinians and ensuring Israel's security. His approach is pragmatic and grounded in reality. He knows that there are no easy solutions, but he is determined to explore every avenue for peace. Blinken's quiet diplomacy stands in contrast to the more flamboyant style of his predecessor, Mike Pompeo. While Pompeo was known for his hawkish views and his close alignment with the Israeli government, Blinken has adopted a more balanced approach, seeking to engage with both sides even-handedly. Whether this approach will yield different results remains to be seen. The U.S. faces an uphill battle in its quest for a lasting ceasefire. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the most intractable in the world, with a long and bloody history. Decades of mistrust, broken promises, and failed negotiations have left their mark. The two sides seem further apart than ever. The latest round of fighting has only deepened the divisions. Hamas, emboldened by its rocket attacks on Israeli cities, feels it has the upper hand. Israel, determined to crush Hamas militarily, shows no sign of letting up its offensive. Both sides are locked in a deadly embrace, each convinced that it can win through force. The US, despite its best efforts, has struggled to break this cycle of violence. The Obama administration invested heavily in diplomacy, but to no avail. The Trump administration, with its pro-Israel bias, only exacerbated tensions. The Biden administration, though well-intentioned, faces the same daunting challenges. Can the US succeed where others have failed? It is too early to say. The situation remains fluid and unpredictable. But one thing is certain: without a fundamental change in the calculus of both sides, the prospects for a lasting peace remain dim. The weight of history and the burden of past failures hangs heavy over the current negotiations.